Well, I thought I'd come on here. It's Saturday, cold outside, sunny out there, but cold. And last night I brought my other pickup inside. Some of my songs you've probably seen it sitting there in the white truck. Now, bet you, I don't know if I've told you what it is, but here, I'll back up a little bit. There's a sign on it, okay? It is a Escalade EXT. Looks like Avalanche, Chevy Avalanche. And matter of fact, they're about identical in looks, except this one is a little bit heavier, bigger motor. It is quite a bit bigger vehicle, period. And it does ride a little nicer, although the Avalanche, they're not a bad car, or truck. The only thing is, like, the box is awful short on it. I'll show you what, see there. It does have a cover on it that snaps in, and the window back there pops up, the doors flop down. You can put a pretty good piece of lumber or whatever you want to put in there if you're going to carry carpet home or something. So you can use it like a pickup. And a few times I've used it in that way. Most of the time I just drive it because it's nice to drive. But this past year, I've been mostly driving that little Ford pickup. And part of the reason is, my wife likes that truck. That's why I didn't sell the black one. But the other thing is I work on it, mess around with it once in a while. And I've been working on the body. I still need to do the rocker panels before I paint it, but it's just been just a hobby to fool with. And this one, for me and outside, it's starting to show a little bit. Matter of fact, let's see, right there. I'm getting a little bit of pop out there of rust. And I believe I've got another, on the other side of the truck, there might be a start there. It's the only thing that shows on the outside. Anything that is around where there's water and snow and stuff like that, they're going to get a little bit. The inside is pretty much like new. It's white leather interior. It's white on white on white, I guess is what you call it. It's got a rack on top. That back there in the back, let me show you if I can. Right, clear at the back. Clear at the back. There's a toolbox right there that goes down inside the fender well. And both sides have that too. You can put a few extra things in there, a couple pieces of tools if you want it. Everything locks up tight so you don't have to worry about somebody getting into your stuff. But that's probably my project of messing with for a little while. The battery was dead, and it was dead. I'm going to have to put my little computer on there and reprogram it. It's an analyzer deal I bought some years ago. And the heck of it is, it actually probably needs updated. I don't know. I've got another Cadillac in my garage, and I don't remember if it'll fit that or not for programming if I have to. But my battery down there has got very close several times of going clear out. The problem when the battery goes out, they have it like an automatic system between your aging battery and that of how it charges. They get goofy, these things. And right now, until I program it, I've got a couple lights in there that are on the dash just from letting it set and going dead. But other than that, it runs. And it's all-wheel drive. You get out there in the snow, you don't have to turn the buttons on and off or anything, it just goes. It's like my SUV is the same way. It's four-wheel drive. Matter of fact, the car, this CTS down there, it's all-wheel drive. But, you don't have to worry so much about getting stuck. If you do, you're really stuck. Anyway, I happened to watch Lisa's program last night live, and I didn't see the beginning or the very end. Okay, caught some in the middle, in between eating my supper last night, my anniversary supper, and then at the end of her program, my wife was getting ready to do dishes, and usually we have more dishes than what the dishwasher holds. And so the two of us get together, we can get the dishes done quickly, and we can talk a little bit about the day's activities. And it's just kind of a nice time where we're in one room, we're right next to each other, we can talk quietly and easily, and it's a relaxing time. Neither one of us likes to do dishes, but when the two of us together, we can do it. It doesn't take as long, and it doesn't seem as bad. Let's put it that way. Neither one of us want to spend much time in the kitchen if we don't have to. And she'd already spent quite a bit of time getting the anniversary dinner ready for us. Now, let's see. Oh, yeah. I did finish the video that she put up this morning. And there's some paperwork in there you guys might be interested in, where Jeremy was trying to get half a dozen people added to that federal lawsuit. And the judge turned it down, and there was 2 charges taken off. And anyway, little things. I don't know how he'll spin it, but I'm sure he'll talk about it Sunday. But some of the paperwork he put in didn't work very well for him. I'm sure it put him in a good mood. I imagine George is paying dearly for that. And I'm guessing. I'm just an opinion, tongue-in-cheek remark. Oh, Lord. Yeah, and then somebody in there said something about he was buying some condominiums and to make B&Bs or whatever it is out of them, or Airbnbs, I guess they call them. A lot of these terms, I haven't kept up with because I don't mess with real estate anymore. And he showed them off. I looked at them, and they're fair. I'm not so sure they're great. They're okay. That's all. He's going to have to do some work on them, for sure. And he's already got them rented out before he's done any repainting and things like that. He was putting some stuff in them for decoration, but he does things a lot different than I do, I guess. Every time I bought a house or something like that, we buy a house, we stay in the one we're in, and we do what work needs to be done on the other house, if any needs to be done. Then we move into it, and then we take the old house we left, and we fix it nice, really nice, and that way it's easy to sell. They've never had a problem selling a house, and we spend a lot of time, if we're going to buy a house, looking for that house, because we have certain requirements that we want in a house. And if we're going to buy something, we certainly want to get our money's worth out of it, and we want to be able to do it to where we're satisfied with what we're getting. We don't go half into it, let's put it that way. This place, it was like a blank picture where we could paint it any way we wanted it. They didn't have much in landscaping and things like that. And it was pretty much a plain Jane place, and we've done things to make it ours. Is what we've done. And after 22 years of being here, it would be hard to move because the house has got a lot of us in it. It just does. And even this garage, man, I know where everything's at as choked up as it looks in here. I can walk over and grab the different wrenches I need, or if it just all those years you learn where everything's at. You can point somebody in the right direction, they'll know exactly where to go and what they're after. And I do like it out here. It's climate controlled. You never have to worry about it being too hot, too cold, or any of that. And the humidity is kept at a decent level, so you don't have to worry about getting shocked, and you also don't have to worry about getting wet from something dripping where it condenses on anything. We don't get condensation in here. So. Oh, and it's insulated, and it's airtight. Thermal windows, insulated doors, you name it. It's just like a house in here. It's trimmed out, great trim, and I say that because I put it in. And I run it through the router and through my planer. I bought a bunch of lumber from a lumber yard that was going out of business, and I made the extensions that go out to the windows. I made the trim that goes around the outside, and the base. I made all the base in here and put it in. So yeah, it's mine. it's made in the way I wanted it to make. So, and the only thing I have to do to it normally is once in a while I have to get the vacuum cleaner going in here and get rid of the bugs and spiders. It's easier to just take that thing and stick it up there, and boop, they're gone. Oh, let's see. Oh yeah, and today when I come out here, I decided I've got a little power box down here, and I decided to hook that to my mic. I can level things out a little better with it. I think it works a little better. Sometimes I have to turn the echo down a little bit. It doesn't compress it or anything like that. It's just it doesn't add special sounds to it. So at least not that I'm aware of. I do have some equipment in here to do that. I could talk like a chipmunk or just about like anything, I guess. Maybe I could get one to talk like Crayola. I'm just kidding. Well, anyway, I was a little surprised he was getting condominiums, but you know what I was more surprised at is while he was talking, he was knocking Otter Creek pretty bad, I thought. I mean, I'm careful. If I'm going to live somewhere, I'm not going to, shit in my own nest, I guarantee you. And when you start knocking the people who live in the town around you or the town itself, that's exactly what you're doing, and you won't make a lot of friends that way. And he seemed to say that he had plenty of friends there, and I'm thinking, wow, if I lived there, I wouldn't be his friend after hearing some of his speeches, but I'm not his friend anyway, so I guess it don't matter. A lot of what I'm talking about, it's an opinion or an observation of what I see and what in my mind, the big thing, him and I, we really don't do things alike. And all the little towns I've lived in, I've never said things that were negative or derogatory about the city or the town or the village. Never. Matter of fact, usually what it is, I love these new places. It's the adventure and getting there and doing things. And if I've had to rent, I usually get along with the landlord. I have purchased places different. I mean, my wife and I have bought and sold quite a few homes over the years. We like the comfort of having our own place, let's put it that way. We've rented when we had to, because there's places where we didn't live that long. A few years, say. There's no sense of, if it's a short period, it's hard to buy something and then you're taking a chance where you got to get your money back or not, or if you're going to be able to sell it in time. There's a lot of questions come up. We've been lucky, they've all sold quick. We've always fixed them up while we lived there. I've never, that I'm aware of, moved into something that's in the condition of that one place that he's got out in the swamp. I know one of the things I'd said from the very first was, why wouldn't they just go ahead and fix it up instead of living in that place? I didn't call it what I thought of it, because you hate to tell somebody what they live in, but he don't hate to tell people about what other people live in. It don't bother him at all. You'd think that there was a Taj Mahal. He calls it his ranch. I call it a shed, a run-down one at that. It's ready to me, the way I see it, it looks like most of those buildings are ready to fall down. It does. Now I understand why he collects license plates. It's a good thing he's got some of them to kind of hold things together. Holy mackerel. You know what gets me? The back-to-back hurricanes haven't done too much to it, but I think it's because there's so many trees, in a wide circle around there. It must dissipate the wind a little bit, and it must not got that house, because if that house was out very much in the open, I think it would blow it away. I can't see it holding up. That ranch that he's got, when I lived in Louisiana, the camps, they had these camps out in the swamp. And I don't remember seeing any camp that looked like that. They were a lot nicer than that. Well, I take that back. Sometimes after a hurricane, they would get almost totaled, the camps out there. But those, I loved going out in the swamp. It was, for one thing, the swamp was pretty quiet. It's so relaxing. And the people in Louisiana, they know what I'm talking about. You get out there. I love to fish. I watch a channel of some people that have a camp. And, they have it's a little small building. It's set on like a barge type setup. I think it's probably barrels. And he's got it like a deck made where, mobile, so that you can move everything around. And the inside is pretty nice. He's been doing a little bit of trimming in there. And he's fixing it up. Somebody else sold it to him, I'm thinking. But him and his wife and his kid, they love fishing and hunting. And boy, this guy's a crack shot. And matter of fact, he lives where I used to, down there in Houma, Louisiana. And I guess that's why I like to watch his channel. I get a kick out of it, and I get a kick out of him and his wife and kid. His kid is a teenager. I'm not exactly sure how old he is. And they look a lot alike, and they act a lot alike. And they get along great. And that kid is a good shot, too. I'm just telling you, he's quite the boy. And they have a dog. And that dog is clearly overweight, so I'm assuming that they are able to eat real good down there. I know when I lived down there, I lived real good. And I gained weight while I was in Louisiana. All that food, I couldn't turn it down. Boy, to this day, I have a hard time even thinking about stepping foot in Louisiana without thinking about all the different restaurants and the food was fantastic. Man, to this day I love it. I love it. Of course, I loved it in Texas. If you go into a place and they got a big old pot of beans that holds about 3 gallons of beans, you know they're going to be some good. Oh, man. One time I used to go and stop at this, some of the taverns they call like an ice house. And they have long necks, beers, bottle of beer with the tall neck on it, and long necks. But anyway, they love their chili and barbecue down there. And this one place I used to stop at after work, they were going to have a chili thing. And on Sundays, you can't be open I think it's in the mornings. But anyway, we get in there early to start this chili up. And of course, you're going to have a few beers and things like that, or mixed drinks too. But anyway, there's nobody there to register. It's all honesty. If you crack a beer, you throw the money up there on the bar and walk away. If to get an invite, they trust you, otherwise they wouldn't invite you there. So we were all sitting around there and playing pool and having a good time and talking. And in comes this stranger, and he bellies up to the bar, and he don't say too much. And he's watching everything's going on. He said, well, who do I pay for the drink? And, one of the guys said, well, just flip the money up on the bar. They don't collect, and they don't open the register. They just be fair about it. So the guy said, okay. And pretty soon he pulls out this badge and lays it on the bar. And he said, you guys, you're all under arrest here. For rate citations. For drinking on Sunday out here, he said, this bar isn't supposed to be open. You all violated the laws. I thought, holy mackerel, is this guy kidding me? No, he wasn't. And the gal that owned the bar, of course, she got citation. And she talked to him a little bit. None of the rest of us got rolled up, but she took it on the chin. And they shut her down for, I think it was a couple of weeks. Not right away. She had to go to court. And whoever the judge was, I think, shut the business down for a couple of weeks. And that's hard on your pocketbook. I mean, that place is popular. They had a back room with multiple tables that people were always playing. They had card tables back there. And there was 2 tables out in front. You know, you come in the door and to the left, and there's a table. And, oh, yeah, you turn right, there's another one there. And then a nice big U-shaped bar. And it was nice. But anyway, I want to tell you a little bit. The big pot of chili, I mean, it's a big pot. And it's sitting there going, and it's slow cooking. And different people had brought in meat. And down there in Texas, the Texas-style chili, it's mostly meat. It's quite a deal. And they'll put a pot of beans over here somewhere. You can take and put that in there with it, but they don't cook them with beans, at least there. It's mostly meat. And a lot of jalapenos in there. And it had been cooking a couple hours. And I went over there and looked at it, and oh man, it smelled good. And they had a couple spoons so that you could take a taste, you know, and throw the plastic spoon away afterwards. And I hadn't been around there where they put that many peppers in there, but what happens is when you slow cook them, a lot of that juice comes to the top from a pepper. So you got a layer of pure jalapeno juice. And these jalapenos were the hot ones. These aren't the mild ones. And that got me a little bit of that, and I put it in my mouth, and directly, man, I was heading back where my beer was sitting. I swallowed it pretty good, and it just made it worse. But I learned my lesson, and there's a couple of guys over there, old-timers, been around. And they said, you got to stir the pot. He said, that's what that big wooden spoon's for. He said, you stir the pot first before you take a sample. They got a kick out of it. And I didn't make that mistake anymore. Oh, that was a good old Texas story. That's all that was. And that was to let you know, when you're at different places, you have to get along with the people that are there. And I lived in Houston, you know, the north side of Houston. And the places I went, you know, my office was down off from Bingle, and people who live around Texas know where that's at. I lived in Inwood up there on the north side, so I really enjoyed it. As far as Homa, I had a pretty good sized boat, and I'd bought it while I was in Texas, and but it was made so you could go out in the Gulf. Now it was only 19 foot long, so it wasn't like it was but it was a big heavy boat. My wife and I, and it's a short draft. It's like a tri-hull fiberglass setup, and it had a top and stuff that like a convertible top on it. Big motor in the back, outboard. And the canal wasn't too far from where we live, Intercoastal Canal they call it. It was like 5 minutes from the house. We actually lived in an apartment complex, you know, single-story apartment complex that was shaped like a U, like this. Real nice people owned it. Good neighbors. The sharing type. If they cook something up good, they'd come over and see if you think it's good too. And there was a guy who lived up the street. He'd call me up when he'd have some crawfish get ready to go and say, Ray, the first batch is ready. You want some? And I've got pictures of my wife and sister-in-law and let's see, my 2 daughters. I think one of my sons was down there. 2 daughters for sure. But anyway, they were all sitting around that table, and I had crawfish piled high on there. And you just take you grab what you want. You eat with your hands. I mean, I won't go into a lot of description because some of you probably have never been down there and eat crawfish before. But it doesn't take long to go through 5 or 10 pounds. And when you put 10 pounds on a table, And about 20 minutes or 15 minutes later, they're gone. All that's left are shells. Nowadays, they're a lot more expensive. Back then, it was cheap buy them in the big bags of crawfish. I think there was more of them down there, too. It'd rain, and the ground would be just red with these crawfish out there with their claws up in the air like this. And you could get all you wanted when it was like that. I worked at the nuke plant out there by Thibodeau. Well, no, it was Luling. And the places out there were something. Besides living in Houma out there, and I drove, it was 45 miles to the plant from Houma. I loved it out in Houma, that's why we lived out there. But there was a place that cooked up some shrimp, and it looked like a patty, almost like a hamburger patty. And I don't know what, it was in like a dough type material, and deep fried. And I don't know, I'd never had anything like that anywhere, and nowhere since. Oh, was it great! We'd stop out there once a week and get some of that. And then there's a place called Mosca's, and I don't know if it's still there or not, but it was considered like a 3-star restaurant, and it would have been a 5-star if it would have been modern. This place looked like a shack out in the swamp, and it had wooden floors in there, and the tables, they're kind of open, oilcloth type table, on top, and they were known for their crab salad. And when you ordered a crab salad, I mean, it was chunk full of crab, and it was big. It was a meal. But they had a steak that they were one of the best places around New Orleans for their steaks. I never had a bad meal in that place. I loved it. Oh, I get hungry just thinking about it. And then behind the plant, there was this place, it looked like a little house. Well, it might have been, maybe it was the size of this garage, I don't know. And there was half dining room, and the other half was kitchen, and then a little area for the cash register, where you order and stuff like that. Oh, I mean, for a couple bucks, you were filled. And if you like red beans and rice and sausage, anytime they always had that. And they had, it's like a baked chicken, not deep fried, but kind of like a baked chicken. If you didn't get full on a meal, there was something wrong with you. But there was nothing in that place that I couldn't eat. It was that good. And there was probably at least 2 cooks at all time going during lunch hour, and let's say 3 or 4 people waiting on tables. It was the best service. I mean, you can't think of how good it was. And it was just kind of like a hole in the wall. I mean, it wasn't anything special. I don't even know if we could pass inspection, in these northern states. It would be pretty hard. But the food, I've never found food like that anywhere else that was to that extent. I think I was made to live down there in Louisiana or Texas because I love food. And one of the first things I always check is, where's the best place to eat? So, and where is it reasonable? Because I don't want to spend all my money in one place. Now, when I was out in New York, there's a lot of great places, there was good places, and there was bad places. You just had to ask the question, where's the best place to get a good meal? And I'm telling you, sometimes in some of the smaller towns or on the edges, you could find a tavern that their appetizers were more than enough for a meal. And they would just throw them up on the bar up there. Oh, man. You'd get full on that because you'd be drinking beer at the same time. That's why they give you free appetizers. But you didn't have to pay for them. Back then, wings were free. You didn't have to pay those big dollars for them. Wings cost more than steak if you add up the price of them now. Oh, Lord, what good food. And then, now my wife and I lived out in the state of Washington for a while. That's when we had our oldest boy. He was just a baby when we were out there. And we used to go down to the fish market. Oh, now we lived in South Tacoma out there. Oh, man, you talk about fresh and good. We used to buy these prawns, and they were big. I mean, they were probably 3 or 4 inches long, I think. Yeah. And they were reasonable cost. And the neighbor, he was in the Air Force. He was the one that told me about that place, and we'd take a run down there at least every other week to get something fresh, and then we'd cook it up and have a big meal together. Anyway, like I say, wherever we lived, we always found friends, and of course, the common thing probably was the food, because we all like to eat. And most of the people back then had kids. You know, your kids played with each other. It was just good times. We lived in a little Italian town for a while. And has anybody ever had bungee calda? But anyway, it's a dip, you know. It's got let's see, anchovies in it, olive oil, heavy cream, lots of garlic, fresh garlic. Chop it up fine, put it in there, and it turns into like a sauce. And then you get a head of lettuce out and you chop it up into big pieces. And you get some fresh bread. Chunky bread, you just pull it apart, you don't cut it. But anything you want to dip it into there, that's what you dip. And then you eat it. Ooh-wee. Was that good? Oh, my. And then they had this little place uptown. A friend of mine named Tonelli owned it. And it was a supper club. And I used to tend bar in there for him once in a while. But anyway, the wife and me, we'd go up there. He had great chicken and steaks. Oh, man, you'd go up there and you sit out there in the dining room and have this meal. You can't hardly get up after you eat the meal up there. They give you so much. It was always family style. The sides were bowls full of whatever you wanted. Kitty corner across there, they were famous for their deep fried chicken. And it had like a light colored dough, but this was cooked to perfection. And it was one of the greatest things to go up there and get a sack full and take it home. And it didn't get you all greasy when they take it out. Whatever they cooked it in didn't hang in there that long. But tender and good and tasty. And they never would give us a recipe. The woman that run that place, her name was Jenny, and his name was John. And he was in construction. I got along great with him. He was a crane operator, and he was always just about the color of a dark brown shoe because he was out in the sun all the time. Big guy. You didn't argue with him. He had a good job as running a bar and owning it, him and his wife. Anyway, every place we went, we met people like that. Now, I don't know what your life was like. And if you like to go to different places and meet people and just have a good time, well, that's what you do. You don't worry and start suing neighbors and, throwing stuff across the road at people. You find a way to get along with them if you can. And like I say, families, like whether it's kids, food, find the common denominator, zero in on that, and invite everybody in. People seemed to be friendly back then. Of course, I'm going back over 40, 50 years ago. I don't know if things have changed that much. Where I live right here, I have a neighbor on this side. We get along great. Every once in a while, they'll bring something in. They went to a grocery store. They'll say, hey, look, we've got a special. Sometimes it's sweet corn. They used to bring me steaks over once in a while. They'd go out and buy a half or a side of cow and say, look, what we've got here. Try this out. Eggs. They used to live in the country on a farm. Every once in a while they stop by, hey, Ray, you want some eggs? We got some extra eggs here. If you say yes, then you can figure 2 or 3 dozen are coming your way. But that's the kind of neighbors you want. The neighbor over here, he puts a garden in, and he said, Ray, how would you like to have a few things out of the garden? I said, well, that'd be okay. All of a sudden, here's these bags of stuff over. You know, there'd be tomatoes in there and green peppers, and you know, it's one thing after another. I can't tell you what kind of a world you can build around you if you look out there with a big smile and a handshake and a smile in your eye. These people want to be around you. Most people want to be friends. You just got to be ready for it. That's all. I don't want to meet anybody with a frown on my face because I know it's going to get returned tenfold then. Because they're going to be mad at me because they think I'm mad. But I just don't. And you shouldn't either. I cringe every time I hear Jeremy talk about the town of Otter Creek out there or his neighbors. Because there's no way that all those people can deserve that kind of talk about them. I mean, it don't make sense to me. I have traveled to other countries in almost every state in the United States, and I've always found common boundaries, or common bonds. Let's put it that way, to talk about or do something or be a part of. When we moved in here, the guy crossed over there. One of the first things, well, of course, he wanted to know a little bit about me. But one of the first things he said, hey, listen, I know there's the next town over has got this nice Italian restaurant. And he said, let's spend the night over there one of these days. Go over there and see. He said, you'll like it. And there was a pizza shop right uptown. As a matter of fact, there was 2 of them up there. And first we went to the Italian restaurant, and it was pretty good. And then the pizza shop was really good. We were up there, of course, no matter where he went, they all knew him. By the way, this is a guy that spent part of his year down there in Punta Gorda, or Alligator Park. But as a matter of fact, when I went down there, he took me to a restaurant in Punta Gorda there. And man, it was all I could eat to get out there. I was visiting my brother down in Fort Myers, and that's why I went up there to see him up there in Punta Gorda. It's not that far away, see. But I told my brother, I said, and I was staying. I rented a place on one of those efficiency, like an efficiency apartment or something like that down there on the beach. And but I didn't have food to cook. I had this little kitchenette thing there. Anyway, I was on my way back to where his house was, and he didn't live too far from the airport down there. So I said, "Is there a good place to eat down here?" So I would buy breakfast, and then him and I'd eat lunch and supper together. He said, "Yeah." He told me where it was at. So I went in down there, and it was only about 70-some degrees. It wasn't. Maybe it was 75. I don't know. But the restaurant part was kind of full. It was breakfast time. And I said, oh, boy, I'm going to have a hard time to find a table. And the people said, well, if you don't mind sitting outside, we'll bring you in as soon as something opens. And so I sat out there at the table, and oh, man, it was nice. For me, it felt pretty nice. The sun was shining. So I told them, I'll take my breakfast out here, and they brought me out some fresh squeezed orange juice. And, man, it was good. And then I had eggs and I think it was sausage. Yeah, I can't remember what else I had. Maybe it was a big cinnamon roll and toast. But anyway, boy, I was full when I got it from that, and it was delicious. I don't know how they fed that many people that quick, and that the food was that good. The eggs were perfect. So, like I say, you got to find a common bond. Oh, by the way, the place I stayed up there, up on top of the building, on the very top, there was a rooftop bar up there. And I wasn't there, I don't think, 5 minutes. And they were bringing appetizers out. And then the guy next to me bought me a beer, and I talked to him and his wife, and then the guy in there said, hey, you know, he sent a beer over, we're talking there. The whole place was like that. Everybody was buying each other drinks here and there and talking and having a good time. And it was almost like a rumble going in there, you know, kind of like if you open up the top of a beehive, how it sounds. But just friendly, just friendly. And when you'd walk out on the beach, everybody out there was having a good time, especially in the evenings. It was a good going time is all I can say. So as far as bad experiences, man, I don't know how this guy runs into so many bad experiences. You'd think the whole world was coming down on top of his head. It never did that to me. Oh, I mean, if I could do it all over again, I think, and my wife, I think, would attest to it. She enjoyed herself at the different places we went, and the people we met, you know, they're worth more than any money that you can make somehow. The memories that you bring with you as you traverse this road, if you will, going across the different cultures, and the time that you stop and listen and partake in whatever's going on. We were way up into, let me see, I'm trying to think. It's Wisconsin somewhere. And there was a city park in this town. Anyway, the people there were super friendly. They wanted to give you samples of their home-baked goods, and you know, they all had different types of honey, stuff like that out there, and rolls. And, oh man! And then I know there was a place up there where my son he had told me about where there was a pizza place up there that was famous, and we went in there and we it wasn't too expensive, but anyway, well, we had a beer, but they brought this big pizza out because we were getting it to go. It was like, oh, how are you going to eat that? And then there's a place up there that they have what they call a boil over or something like that, and they bring all this fresh fish in, and they get this big kettle. It's the fire department puts it on, and they throw the fish in there, and when it starts to boil over, you know, then they grab that fish back out of there, and it's cooked perfect. Oh. But all these places, you know, you go and they invite you in, and you know, they give you as much free stuff as the stuff they charge you for. It just seems like you're a brand new neighbor each time you go to these places. And all it takes is a handshake and a smile. People would rather love you than hate you when you go places like that. It doesn't take too many compliments to put you on the right side of the general populace. Believe me, it doesn't. So, like I say, I don't understand people like Jeremy that seems to have this problem. And he says, well, I've got good friends. But he talks about so many bad people. How can you have both in the same place? I don't know. I've never understood that. And I don't know if he's just it's a show for a show, the drama and all that stuff. I got an idea. I mean, nobody probably I don't know if anybody knows what he's really like, or, you know, how much is show and how much is just BS. Who knows? But I can tell you my experiences have all been great experiences. I love people. I love places. And you know I love food. Look at this. That's me. Oh, Lord, oh, Lord. Yeah, and I think of all the barbecues I've went. You know, I used to live pretty close down there in Texas to a place. They took second place in one of the state finals there for barbecue. And it was just a few blocks from where I lived down there. And I'm telling you, you could walk in there and the smells and the food, oh man, you can't believe it. You know, and then up on 149, it's a highway that runs east and west on the north side up there. They have these different vendors up there. And there was this black guy up there. He had a pickup, you know, and the back of it was built out. And he sold fresh shrimp. And he was up there just about every day. But the thing that we loved the most, he had this boudin, his own recipe. He made it from scratch. Oh, whenever we went up there, we'd buy several pounds of boudin. And we always bought shrimp, too, don't get me wrong. But that was special. See, we lived in Texas after we lived in Louisiana. And over in Louisiana, everybody has their own recipe for boudin. You know, it's just, everybody has just that little difference, and it's really good. But this guy in Texas, that was probably some of the best I ever had. So I never got enough of it. I never did. Oh, man. I guess each area has something they're famous for. Now, out in South Carolina, and believe me, where I went to this, there was one restaurant there, and the people talk so fast, I had a hard time understanding them. And most of the time, I do talk a little slower, and I guess it's a preference or the way I grew up, not trying to throw too many words together. But the one thing that stood out, you know, if you get iced tea or tea of any kind, it's pretty sweet. So if you want something that's not quite that sweet, you have to just tell them no, don't sweeten it. No, I don't want it sweetened, and you'll put your own in or whatever. But it was okay. As far as the brewing part, it was great, and the food was pretty good too. One thing I got to say, out in North and South Carolina both, and I worked in both states, and Georgia, by the way. But anyway, breakfast was sausage and biscuits, you know, gravy, sausage, gravy, and biscuits. I couldn't get enough of it, hardly. One time, I was in this place, and they had these great biscuits and gravy, and a friend of mine, he's a pretty good-sized guy. He's kind of chunky like I am, and that was one of his favorite foods. So at breakfast time, him and I'd go to his place, and we worked together on the same job, by the way. And he was getting to feel, he didn't feel too good that morning, and sweating a little bit. And we, of course, for months we'd been eating breakfast up there. We were eating all these, big plates of this sausage, gravy, and biscuits, homemade biscuits. And he said, "Ray, I don't feel too good." He said, "I'm going to call my wife and have her fix me up with an appointment for the doctor." And he said, I'll see you a little later. And pretty soon he said, "Well, I've got an appointment." He said, "I got to take off." And so he took off, and he had to go. He lived in a few, several towns down the way south of there. And he called me part way, and he said, "Ray," he said, "I think that I had a heart attack." He said, "I've had problems with my heart." He said, "So that's where I'm on the way." And he said, "It's going to be a while before I can get back to the job site." And I was wondering, why in the heck did you take off? There was a heart center just a few blocks from where we were working, a hospital that was known. Because that's what, I didn't recognize it, but those things can happen. But I can tell you, it kind of shook me up, and it was a while before I sat down to a big plate of sausage gravy, and it's a milk gravy, and biscuits, because it reminded me too much of him having that heart attack while we were just sitting there eating. And he did get fixed up, and he's still going, he's still plugging away. It just, oh, thank Lord. But all these places, and like I say, food seems to be one of them. The other thing is smiles and things that you do. You like to be out and go see things. I think I better cut this short. It's getting too long. People get tired of hearing all these BS stories. And here I am telling you about good times, and you probably have a million times more good times going for you. If you do, you can always put them down there in the comments and talk them over. And tell me what part of the country you like best for the food that they served. But one thing about it, I don't know if I've ever went somewhere where they didn't have some kind of a specialty that really was special. Man, some of the desserts that you can get different. Down in New Orleans, I went to a place, I think it was called Commander's Table. And there was a famous chef that was there at that time. And you see him on the TV a lot. He's up there in age now, but they had, it looks like a a chocolate roll. It's bigger at one end and goes small. And then they stuff it with ice cream. And the chocolate is pretty thick. It's round like a horn. That's what I'd call it. It's a chocolate horn stuffed with ice cream with hot raspberry sauce over the back. Runs down the sides. Oh, the homemade ice cream. I made out of real cream. The chocolate is top notch. This restaurant, as far as I know, is still there. It's still famous. I think it was a 4-star restaurant when we were down there. This chef, he was the one that kind of made it that way. He's not there anymore. He has his own places, different places. But, oh, man. I would go back there just for that dessert. Now, everything else they had there was top-notch. I don't care what you ordered. It was great. And down there by Jackson Square, there's a restaurant. It's upstairs. And you order a meal there, and they're truly 7-course meals. And our company, the office personnel, we booked it one night, and we were all down there. This great, huge table, we sat around it. And there was servers on both ends, and people coming and going to serve this 7-course meal. And when you get done, if you can walk by yourself, that's almost a miracle. Because you're so full, and it was so good. Oh, and that's why I have a heck of a time talking, because it makes the saliva run just thinking about all those good things. And the people are all happy to see you. You just get around and tell stories. They talk with you just as much as they talk with each other. They're not sitting there with a grin or a sourpuss or anything like that. They're all happy too. And half the time, when you're in a restaurant like that, the cook will come out and talk to you a little bit and see how things were going. I've seen that more down south. I haven't seen it up north, but just a good time. I take that back. In my early years, when I was in construction, I went into this little town, and this friend of mine, he was a pretty good-sized fellow. We were both, big, kind of big guys, and we could eat. And we didn't eat breakfast that day until it was almost 10 o'clock, so we were starved to death. And we'd been out hanging sheetrock all morning, so we'd worked up some energy out, or worked the energy out, and then we were ready for food. So I ordered a half dozen eggs and a half pound of bacon and a quart of milk and some flapjacks. Now that in itself, that's a big meal. And he did the same thing. He's sitting right across from me. And we got done eating that, right? Now you'd think, where do you put that? Because I wasn't a fat guy, back then. I was thin enough, just muscular, because of the work we did. We got all done, and the waitress come over and said, "Are you satisfied with your meal?" And he said, I could eat some more. She looked at him and says, "Okay, what do you want?" He said, "I want the same thing." So we both had the same thing, and believe it or not, I don't know how we did it, but it was good. We did eat it all, and the hardest thing to get down the last time around was flapjacks, because they're kind of thick and they take a little bit of room up, but it was so good. And it took us a while to finish off that second round. But the people come out of the kitchen, they wanted to see who in the heck could eat a meal like that. It was funny. Of course, like I say, we were both pretty good-sized guys, and we were super full. We couldn't eat another bite, I don't think. And the only reason we finished is because once we started, we figured we'd better. Those people looked at us like we were kind of foolish in the first place. So, yeah, I've got a lot of stories about food from different places. There's a place called the Roundhouse down there in Louisiana. And I think it was Thursday nights when you stop in there, it was free crabs. All you could eat. And they cook corn potatoes in with the crabs, the crab boil. And they dump them out on your table, and they roll paper towels up on the table for you. The tables, they're just those things like the table you stick the feet down, legs, and they're about say 4 or 5, 6 feet long each table, and they had paper covering on them, and every once in a while they'd take the cover off, but anyway, that's how they served it. And then where they made their money was off the drinks. You were expected to have some drinks, so you drink beer. That was probably one of my favorite spots when I'm going back and forth to work, but mainly home from work, on that one night a week of place to stop and have a meal. So I better quit talking about food. It's making me hungry, and it's nowhere near lunchtime, or supper. Lunch is gone. I hope I didn't make you too hungry out there. If I did, I hope you find a good meal or have a good person to help you fix a meal, I'll say. So I'll see. Yeah, I was having a good time talking about. I probably had a better time than you did just talking about it. So we'll see you later. What would John say? Remember? Ta-ta.